the whole paradigm Dr. Gerbode established with traumatic incident reduction and all the applied metapsychology techniques, it's not just the techniques in terms of what are the words you say, but the paradigm is being person-centered and yet directive. So we do run into some Rogerian folks who feel like, well, you're not really person-centered because you're asking the person to look over here, tell me this, look over here and tell me this. But Dr. Gerbode maintains, and I agree with him, that you can still work within a completely person-centered context and still have a directive way of working that's going to be way more efficient than just allowing the person to flounder around and hope that some pieces fall into place. So there's the great power of the person-centeredness. The person feels safe, they're not pushed into doing something they're not ready to do. We listen to them, we believe them when they tell us things, and we work within that person's worldview. So it's very safe. And then the techniques themselves are just superb at getting to the heart of the matter.
They can expect to achieve what they want to achieve. Like when they do other techniques or therapies, which they can hope, but here I have found good results with everybody I work with. So whatever they want to achieve, what they want to work on to release from their life, or awareness and abilities they want to achieve, they get there. I mean, within reason. They're not going to be Superman or something, but the kind of things that people normally want to achieve.
Well, it was a real paradigm changer for me because, as I say, in the practice of counseling before I got involved with TIR, we were dealing mainly with the cognitive controls that people can exert over their own repertoire of personal, emotional, psychological distress. And to come across a model that would essentially undercut all of that and make it unnecessary to do, ultimately make it unnecessary to do that, okay? Really resolve a problem that even the client had thought was probably going to track them to their grave, right? It's just, it's the kind of thing that I had not expected to come along in my lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something. My clients come to me and say that they've been looking, and in some cases even getting various therapies for 20 and 30 years. And in a relatively short number of sessions have achieved what they wanted to. And I'm not in any way saying that the therapies they had previously were ineffective. Perhaps they built them to the point where they now can use what we have and what we are guiding them to do in applied metapsychology. I make no judgment about that. All I know is they are thrilled. They cannot believe how well this has worked for them.
We weed out things that don't work as well, and we continue to include more things that do work, and we borrow ideas. We're not shy about borrowing ideas from other fields, such as cognitive therapy, and even a TIR itself is a borrowing from Sigmund Freud, who was the first to come up with the idea, as far as I know, was the first to come up with the idea of going back to find earlier and similar incidents in order to find what the root of the problem was. That is the basic technique of TIR. But another way of looking at it is that we're following the lead of Pavlov in that what we're doing is basically a desensitization of areas where a person has developed conditioned reflexes in the past. So we're really undoing those reflexes. And that is another way of looking at what we do.
TIR, as I have done for the last 20-odd years, over some of the earlier, otherwise perfectly fine cognitive behaviors techniques, is that it brings a resolution to the problem, whether it's an anxiety or depression or whatever it is, not just a management skill, okay? The things that my colleagues and I had been doing for the 20 years before that were basically teaching management skills. Nice stuff, but this stuff just puts it away. Yeah, TIR just puts it away. So it's no longer, you no longer have anything else to manage. You know? It's great.
The facilitator and the client in this work are much more on an even basis in terms of they're in collaboration with each other. The facilitator is the expert on the techniques and the methods of applied metapsychology. The client is the expert on their own life and experience. So it's very collaborative, it's very empowering to the client, and I think that's what makes it work.
I think it's similar to the Rogerian approach, the person-centered approach, in that we don't, we allow the client to go where the client wants to go, and we don't make interpretations for the client. That's a similarity with Rogerian work, and the difference is that we're extremely directive and structured in a way that Rogerian therapy is not. On the other hand, we're similar to the Freudian approach in the sense that we have, in the TIR part of it at least, we tend to go back and find earlier traumas that are affecting the person now, and we do that in a systematic way, probably more systematically than Freud did. But tracing back to earlier incidents of a similar nature that were traumatic, we can reach the points at which the person was first traumatized, and as Freud said, this does result in a resolution.
I think simply the fact that it is designed to trace a particular personal mood, emotion, reaction, or whatever, to its origin, to its experiential origin. And there aren't any other techniques in contemporary practice that do that. Well, psychoanalysis was intended to do that, okay? So for 6 sessions a week for 20 years, you could kind of try to sneak up on it with classic psychoanalysis. But that was just inefficient beyond words. And TIR just goes there, resolves it. Next case, please. Beautiful.
One example is a lady that came to me. She was herself a therapist, and she had been in therapy for 15 years, 3 hours a week, and she had not resolved the issue that she was trying to resolve in those 15 years. And she actually resolved it in her first TIR session, which took about an hour and a half. And it was an amazing result, and you never know when that's going to happen. That happened for her. For other people, it takes much more than one session and one technique to resolve the issue.
Most therapists use a 15-minute hour, and we find that isn't helpful because we like to take a person in a particular session and have them work on a specific circumscribed issue, and we like to see it resolved at the end of the session, or at least a point of resolution. So we like to carry on a session or one of our techniques to a point of success, and that's a good point to end. And that's very different from most therapeutic approaches.
If you've ever worked with anybody with PTSD and you don't know what TIR is, for God's sake, find out. You know, I know you've heard of EMDR, I know you've heard of this and that, you know, but check out TIR. It's dynamite.